Let me ask you what you think about or what you expect here from Brexit. I know you're an economist, but you've still got to be following this with the same zeal that the rest of us are. How much of a problem is this uncertainty that Sajid Javid is talking about?
Well, I think the uncertainty is a problem for everybody. It's not really so much the UK. I mean, I just finished a 2-week marketing trip around the Asia-Pacific region, and frankly, nobody asked me about Brexit. That's maybe because it's just so unclear, but I think also it's in part seen as a bit of a sideshow, which it isn't, because a no-deal Brexit would almost certainly push the UK economy into a pretty deep recession, maybe not as deep as it would have been if the Brexit had come earlier, given more time to prepare, but a severe recession nevertheless. And our estimates suggest that for every 1% less UK GDP, euro area GDP will be down by 0.2 to 0.25%. So a really deep recession in the UK could very much push the euro area into recession, and then that really becomes a global issue. At this stage, I think it's the whole situation is about as clear as mud. It's really not at all clear where this is going to go. We've been working on this topic for 2.5 years, meaning the politicians. We really have made very little headway. So we'll see. But I think the Prime Minister Johnson's strategy of negotiating with the EU, which is basically give me what I want or I'll jump out of the window, is maybe not going to be so successful.
How much does the how does the EU economy look to you, Klaus, even without Brexit right now? I mean, how much trouble is the EU economy in as, Mike Pompeo flies over here to talk about tariffs?
Well, I think the EU economy, if you can speak of such a thing, I prefer to think about the euro area and the other countries, but is of course in a certain degree of trouble, and most of the trouble really is from Germany. We've seen a drastic deterioration in German economic conditions, with a negative quarter already in the second one. It's highly likely the third one is going to be negative as well. So Germany is, at least on the definition of 2 successive negative quarters, is basically in recession right now. This actually is entirely an external shock, and it, I think, is testimony to the deep uncertainty that is generated by both the US trade war with China and the threatened trade war with many other economies, as well as a Brexit, which in all probability is making companies pretty uncertain about investing. Now, so far, the services sector, which is much larger, is holding up well. The trouble is that, historically, it is the much more volatile manufacturing sector that puts you into recession or not. So I think the situation is quite worrisome. And the big issue is that monetary policy is pretty much run out of road, and so fiscal policy will have to jump in the breach. And I think that's not only true in the euro area, it's true in many areas.
Well, I think it's also very interesting. We heard from Mario Draghi yesterday. I mean, he's been asking for governments to step in with fiscal help for years, and he's been very explicit about it recently. Yesterday, he said fiscal policy becomes more powerful and monetary policy is close to the effective lower bound. As the multipliers are higher, do you think Berlin is listening?
To some extent. I think the change in Germany is going to be brought about by the following change in the overall setting. You see, Germany, of course, has been asked for a fiscal expansion for years, and it's resisted. And it could resist because the German economy was actually growing fairly well, quite well, in fact. Unemployment was declining. The German politicians were saying, look, it's not even clear the German economy can actually absorb a fiscal expansion. Now, Germany has gone from being the outperformer to the underperformer in the euro area. We think that it's only a matter of a few months until German unemployment starts to rise, and that is going to focus the minds of German politicians. It looks as if a fiscal expansion was going to be dressed up as an environmental package, or at least combined with an environmental package. That'll be popular. And one has to, of course, also take into account that Germany is now being paid to take on debt, and that's right out the yield curve out to 30 years. So the whole rationale for having a balanced budget, or the so-called black zero, so budget balance with a bias towards surplus, kind of the whole logical basis has been removed, at least at this stage.